Here are the exact strategies I'm using to grow my email list from 50,000 to 100,000 subscribers and increase my business revenue from about 2 million per year to over 5 million in 2025. So, my email list recently surpassed 50,000 subscribers. And what's great is the business revenue and profits growing faster than ever. And we've gotten more and more customers from our email list and our newsletter. In this video, I'm going to talk about how I got to 50,000 subscribers, my plan to grow my email list to over 100K, why your total subscriber number or email list number doesn't actually matter, and what you can learn from my experience publishing over 100 newsletters for actually 117 newsletters for the past 117 weeks, spending over $150,000 to grow my newsletter, and also my experience helping clients. And so if you're new here, I have helped top media companies and creators add over 10 million newsletter subscribers and over 100 million in sales from their email list. And I've also grown my business to over $300,000 per month, with most of that revenue coming from my newsletter and email list. So first of all, how I actually grew the list to over 50,000. Here's where my email subscribers have come from over the last 12 months. These numbers are approximate. So Meta ads to grow my newsletter, that means Facebook and Instagram ads, about 32,000. Meta ads to drive webinar registrations, where people are also auto subscribed to my newsletter, about 9,000. Website direct traffic, which is traffic that I can't attribute, but people just came directly to my website through some type of link or through typing in directly. That's about 10,000 people. Google search traffic, 2,000 people. Beehive Boost, which is a kind of affiliate platform for newsletters where people can recommend my newsletter, and I get signups, about 1,500. Twitter organic signups, about 1,000. YouTube, about 900. And LinkedIn, about 300 people. Now, what's interesting about that is these acquisition sources are almost entirely different than the ones that I used to get my first 10,000 subscribers. My first 10,000 came from Twitter organic, about 4,000. Twitter ads, 3,000. Direct traffic, 1,300. Organic search, about 600. Beehive Boost, 350. Referrals, 350. And then other sources added up to about 2,617. And what I want to talk about first before I get into what I'm going to do to get to 100K is actually what changed for me on my growth trajectory. And one of the first things is that Twitter, or now X, changed completely. It used to be a platform where I could get a lot of audience growth and email subscribers from, and now it's almost completely dead for list growth. So when I hit 10,000 subscribers back in 2023, Twitter was a reliable source of organic traffic, and that's completely changed. Most people, including me, are seeing a fraction of the reach they had once on that platform. I could probably adapt better, but I don't really see a future there. There's some exceptions, but Twitter X is mostly dead if you want to grow your email list and get traffic. There was this golden period between 2020 and 2023, and really that's gone at this point for almost all creators on the platform. What I'm glad about, though, is that during the time I was growing my Twitter audience very quickly back in 2023, I was actively converting those people to my email list. So I still retain a lot of that audience. I just don't have the reach there anymore. So I got about, over time, historically, over 10,000 email subscribers from Twitter, but I'm just not growing much there anymore. And what everyone did, including me, is we all moved to LinkedIn. So a lot of the top Twitter creators, I wouldn't say I'm a top Twitter creator, but I had a decent following there, all moved over to LinkedIn. And I now have about 11 or 12,000 followers on LinkedIn. And it's been a great channel for acquiring clients for my agency, but it's not quite as good as Twitter for list growth. It's just a lot harder to get people to click a link on that platform. The great thing about Twitter was you could have a tweet or a thread, and then in the next post, you could have a call to action for your lead magnet or newsletter. And the content was like just as big and just as relevant as the content above that, because Twitter works in this like thread format, right? With LinkedIn, you can post a link in the comments, you can put a link in your profile. It's really hard to get people to actually go to your profile or the comments. And obviously, all platforms, including LinkedIn, discourage you from actually putting a link in your post, because that will dramatically reduce the reach that you get on that post. So it's hard to get email subscribers from LinkedIn. I still think it's been worth the effort. My analytics say about 300 subscribers came from LinkedIn, which is really low, but I actually think that's closer to 1,000 or 2,000, because attribution doesn't always work perfectly. I hear a lot of people discover me on LinkedIn, and so I'm still happy with it. The reality is I could do better with LinkedIn. I just haven't put in the work. I spend a fraction of the time creating content for social as I did back a couple years ago. I haven't promoted lead magnets. I haven't tested any like comment to get strategies where you say something like, "Hey, I have this cool thing I made. Comment, X word, and I'll send it to you in a DM." That works very well for getting email subscribers. It's just not a priority for me. I found other ways to grow that I believe are more sustainable and scalable. I'm still bullish on LinkedIn, though, if you want to explore it as a platform to grow your audience or your business. It's really the last text focused platform that you can still use to grow. Twitter is hard to grow, and then every other platform is video based. And video based is fine, but that's not for everybody. What I'm doing now is I'm using paid ads a lot more. And this is why organic list growth has slowed, as we talked about. And most importantly, I've found reliable ways to turn paid advertising into profit for my business. Depending on how I run the numbers, about 30 to 60% of my customers come from paid ads. And yes, on average, the newsletter subscribers I get from paid ads are less engaged than organic signups like LinkedIn, Google search, Twitter, etc. Right? But the important thing is it's faster and more consistent to grow from paid ads, and I still convert those subscribers into customers, so I make a profit. Here is how I'm turning those paid advertising signups into profit. And my process is pretty simple. I use ads, and the main platform that I'm using is Meta Ads, as I covered before. And I drive traffic to a newsletter landing page or a page for a webinar registration. I send emails and newsletters to nurture those subscribers, get them to know, like, and trust me. And then they join a live webinar where I sell them my product. And the main product that I have to offer for most people is called Write Grow Sell. I'll have a link for that down below. I also have an agency service which I sell to a smaller percentage of my subscribers because it's a much more expensive service that's meant for more advanced business owners. Okay. Now, these webinars are really important, okay? And they're not all like sales. A lot of people think webinar and they think I'm gonna sell you for 45 minutes or an hour. That's not how I do it. I teach, I answer questions on the webinar, and then I do share an offer at the end. But it's very educational, and people say this is like the most valuable training I've seen on newsletters before, and it was worth my time to attend, even if I didn't buy. So that's my goal with those webinars. And the reality is, without the webinars, I would have a fraction of the customers that I do now. It's an incredibly powerful way to convert your email audience or any audience into a customer in a very short period of time. What I love about webinars is they condense trust. And so if someone joins me on a live webinar and they spend an hour or 2 hours with me, they have a lot of context on what I do. They get to know me, they get to like me, they get to trust me in a short period of time, and they're much likely to become a customer immediately afterwards. Versus if I wanted to do that in another medium, I would probably need to send them 10 or 20 newsletters or get them to listen to multiple podcasts or YouTube videos. Webinars convert trust so you can sell faster. If you're someone who has a product, a course, a coaching program, some type of paid content or community product that's priced anywhere from $500 to $20,000, I highly recommend doing some form of live webinars. I found also that people who join my email list through webinar registration not only buy more, but have nearly double the email click-through rate, which shows they're way more engaged with the emails that I'm sending them. Okay, so that's how I got to 50K. Here's my plan to grow to over 100,000 email subscribers. And the main thing I'm going to do is focus. I plan to focus entirely on 2 different acquisition sources for my email list. The first is Meta Ads. That's already working for me, so I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to double down on that. I plan to have about 80% of my ad spend that will be used to drive webinar registrations and then sell my program, Write Grow Sell. And then the other 20% is going to be used to drive newsletter signups for my newsletter or signups for a lead magnet. And then after someone signs up for my newsletter or a lead magnet, I'm going to immediately ask them to register for the webinar so that I can get to know them, teach them on that webinar, and then hopefully convert them to a customer on that webinar. Now, that's the plan. Those percentages are going to change based off of performance, and we'll see what happens. The second source I plan to use to grow my email list is YouTube, and it might be where you're watching this content right now. And this is the only organic source that I plan to focus on. I'm working on publishing 2 to 3 videos per week and including a call to action in each of those videos to sign up for a webinar, my newsletter, or a lead magnet. I got a lot of work to do on the packaging of the videos. So way better video ideas, cooler concepts, better titles, better thumbnails. I'm going to try and make the editing less bad. It's going to be simple, but I'm going to remove a lot of the fluff and try and cut out some of the unnecessary stuff that I say. Just make the videos look more professional too. And then right now, The production quality is going to stay pretty low. I'm just going to focus on high signal, insightful content. Later on, I can make a better studio, have a better environment to film in, better camera, stuff like that. But for now, it's all about the content quality. Now, compared to the experience that I have with paid ads, I'm very much a YouTube beginner. As I'm filming this, the channel has about 5,000 or 6,000 subscribers and 100,000 views. It's very early on this, but I do see a clear path to grow if I publish consistently. The reason that I'm so bullish on YouTube is that I think it's a lot more stable than the other social platforms like Facebook, X, Twitter, or even LinkedIn. YouTube has just been a lot more consistent about how you win on the platform. It gives you better signals that show you how to improve your views. So there's really like two metrics that you want to optimize for: improving the click-through rate, so people actually clicking on your videos, and then improving the retention of your videos, so how many people actually watch to the end. If you can improve those two metrics, you'll get more views on YouTube. But if you want to grow on Facebook or another platform, it's very much like a black box where you don't really understand how the algorithm works. And YouTube is a lot more transparent. I really like that. One of the other reasons that I'm bullish on YouTube is it's really the only discovery platform, excluding Google search, where your content can actually be discovered for months and years after you publish it. So if you publish a tweet, that's going to get seen by people for like 24 hours, then it's going to go away forever and no one ever sees it again. And so if you spend a lot of time on that tweet or that thread, or even like a Facebook post, you got a 24-hour window where people can see it and then it's gone. And so it's like, why spend so much time on that when it's not going to last? Okay, so that's why I'm excited about YouTube. I have videos that I published like 6 months ago that are still getting thousands of views per week. And it's not a lot of views, but it's very helpful for my business. I feel like with YouTube, I can build a deep connection with viewers, and it's just a lot more personal than someone reading a LinkedIn post. I really feel like the only channels where you can build deep relationships are email, podcast, private communities, and YouTube. And so I want to focus my efforts on those things. And this also, having a YouTube channel rather, allows prospects to kind of research me. So let's say someone discovers me from a Facebook ad, and they're like, who is this guy? Is he legit? Should I sign up for this? Should I buy from him? They can go search me on YouTube or even search me on Google, and then they'll see my videos. They can watch, they can get to know me, they can hopefully learn some stuff from this, and then they're more likely to buy after they learn a little bit more about me. And YouTube is a great way to have a resource where people can actually do that. Now, my goal of YouTube is not to build a massive following here. I'm not going to be a YouTuber. It's to build a large following on YouTube and then convert that audience into email subscribers, SMS subscribers, and customers. Okay, I'm a founder first and foremost, and I want to get customers because that's where I can help people the most. I don't really care that much about views. That said, my audience goals in 2025 are this. I want to have over 100,000 email subscribers, over 100,000 YouTube subscribers, and over 25,000 people on my SMS list where I can send them text messages. And of course, I want to get more customers and clients. I'm not going to share those exact numbers right now, but my goals for acquiring customers and clients and giving them an incredible experience are a much higher priority than my audience goals. So if I get to those customer goals faster and I don't hit the audience goals, I'm totally fine with that because my main priority is revenue and customer experience. Now, am I going to get there? I actually don't know. I'm pretty confident I'm going to hit the email and SMS goal because I'm already over halfway there and the year isn't halfway over yet. But the YouTube goal of 100,000 subscribers is way more ambitious, and I'm like 5% there. But I think it's worth trying to get there because it's going to help in other areas of my business too. So that's the plan. Now, with all that said, I really don't think the total number of email subscribers you have or newsletter subscribers, I don't think that really matters. It's nice to have a goal around subscribers, followers, things like that. It helps showing you're moving in the right direction, but it shouldn't be the primary goal for your business. What matters most is your revenue and profit goals and your customer and client success and retention. So if you grow your email list and it doesn't lead to more customers and more profit, it doesn't really matter. If you grow your social following and it doesn't lead to more profit, that doesn't matter. I want to focus on the most important metrics, but I do like having an audience goal too. Now, what can you learn from my experience? I published a newsletter for 117 weeks consecutively. I've spent over 150K to grow my email list. And for clients, I've done and spent a lot more, over 10 million newsletter subscribers and 100 million in sales for clients. Here are a few things you can take away from this. One is that I strongly believe that email is the best way to sell things. That's been my experience, and It's been the experience of hundreds of other businesses. Now, email is the best way to sell things, but newsletters are the best way to build engagement and trust in the inbox. And to actually sell things, you need to build trust first. And I recommend you do that with a high quality newsletter that you send consistently one time per week, and an automated welcome sequence that nurtures new subscribers with little or no selling. Usually that's going to be 5 to 10 emails over 14 to 30 days. The reason that's so important is because to sell, you actually have to have trust and engagement. If you're someone who just has a newsletter and email list and you only send that list marketing emails, they're going to unsubscribe. You're going to go to promotions and spam, and people are not going to trust you because you never built any trust through editorial value-based content. So they're not going to buy from you. So when I'm selling in the inbox, I always focused on building trust first. Okay, then after you build trust, you actually have to sell. And to sell, you actually need to send dedicated marketing emails to segments of your list. I know that sounds obvious, but most people I talk with have one without the other. They usually have a good newsletter, for example, but they send no marketing emails, and that doesn't work. So remember, newsletters don't sell. They build trust and engagement. Marketing emails actually sell and drive customers and sales. Often people I talk with have marketing emails, but they don't have a newsletter and a welcome sequence that actually builds trust, engagement, and improves their inbox placement. Inbox placement is incredibly important because if you open Gmail or whatever you use, you probably have different folders. You have your primary, you have your promotions, updates, etc. Okay, so you want to have an incredible email content experience, so people actually move your emails to the primary inbox. So when you do send a marketing email, it's actually seen and engaged with. So you need both these things to win. You have to have a good newsletter and you have to have good marketing emails. You can't have one without the other. The second thing I recommend you do, and you'll learn from me, is that you should collect data on your subscribers and their phone numbers. If you want to build a sustainable business, you want more than just an email address. I encourage you to use a post-sign-up survey to collect data you can use to sell sponsorships and send customized emails to segments of your list based off of their survey responses. The tool I use for this is called Beehive. I use it to send emails and newsletters, and I also use it for my survey. And those survey responses are automatically added into the subscriber database, so I can see which subscribers had which answers, and I can send emails or automations to those subscribers. I also recommend that you collect phone numbers for SMS blast and SMS automation. So I'm talking about sending text messages. What is so amazing about text is, unlike email, a text has like a 80 or 100% open rate. You always open your text messages. Even if you don't engage with them or reply to them, you're still going to see them, versus a newsletter, even if it's really, really good, it's only going to have a 50% open rate. So 50% of people are never going to see the content inside. Text messages are basically the opposite. And what you can do with a survey is you can have people answer questions about who they are to kind of customize the experience of their subscription. And then at the end, you can say something like optional, enter your email address and I will give you this lead magnet or this bribe, or hey, would you like to hear about the live and virtual events I'm doing? Enter your email address, or enter your phone number rather, not email address, phone number, and I will send you a reminder about those things. And so in that survey, I collect email addresses, and I now have, I think I keep saying email addresses, but I mean phone numbers, excuse me. In that survey, I collect phone numbers, and I now have north of 8,000 phone numbers, and that's been incredibly effective to drive webinar registrations and customers in my business. The third thing is that you should learn how to turn advertising into profit, because big tech is going to make it harder and harder to get website traffic and to grow your email list using their social platforms and their video platforms like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Big tech is incentivized to keep people on the platform. They don't want you sharing links and getting people off of their platform. They want people to stay on the platform and look at more ads. However, if you are an advertiser, the big tech platforms are actually incentivized to make you successful and profitable, because that is their business model. Their business model is all based around advertising. So if you learn how to turn advertising into profit, you can have a very sustainable business. If you can convert traffic from Meta, Google, and other ad channels into customers and sponsorship revenue profitably, you're going to be in a better position than 99% of business owners. This is what I help clients do at GrowLetter. You can check that out at growletter.co below. So it's super important to learn that. All that said, you still want to have organic growth too. You want to master one paid growth channel, which is probably going to be Meta ads for most people, and then one organic growth channel. It really takes two to tango. You don't want to spread yourself too thin either. So you don't want to try and publish on every single social platform. That's going to set you up for failure because all these platforms are distinct. The way you grow on LinkedIn is different than YouTube. So you need to master one at a time. I recommend you find one paid channel, one organic channel, and then just focus on those two things because that's all you need to build a very large business. Keep in mind, every social platform either has hundreds of millions or billions of users. That is enough for you to get customers and subscribers from. And then number 5, you need to get good at selling things. This is the final thing that I recommend that you do. This is important because there's only one way to make money from your audience, whether you have a newsletter, a media company, or a creator. There's only one way to make money from your audience, and that is to sell a product or a service. That could be your product or service that you create and sell, or it could be another company's product or service. That means a sponsorship or an advertiser. And a media business in 2025, I believe, should be able to do both successfully. That doesn't mean your revenue mix needs to be 50% direct revenue and 50% sponsorships. It still could be 80-20 or 70-30 in favor of one or the other. That's probably fine. But if you're a business that's 99% or 90% sponsorships, you're probably in a bad position. Of course, there's exceptions. That doesn't apply to everybody, but it does apply to most media and creator businesses that have started in the past 5 years. I find that people that are not legacy media companies or creators that have, let's say, millions or tens of millions of audience or viewers already, if you don't have that and you're 90% sponsorships, you're probably in a very bad position because sponsorships are just less sustainable. You need to rely on another company to convert the traffic in leads that you send them into customers. And if they don't do that, they're not going to renew their sponsorships with you. Or you have to hope that you get brand advertisers that are just happy to throw money at you and never expect a return. That's not very common, especially if you're new. Getting brand ad dollars is almost impossible unless you've already built a large and trusted brand yourself. And that's worth aiming towards, but that takes a long time. That can take decades. And so don't expect to get brand advertisers that just throw money at you. And one of the other things to just think about is that if you're a newsletter and you just have an ad in your newsletter, that's one of the worst ways to sell things. What I'm talking about here is often referred to as a primary ad. This is kind of popularized by newsletters like Morning Brew, The Skim, The Hustle. These are 50 to 100 word ads that are in the top 30% of your newsletter. Now, those ads can sell, but they're not as effective at actually selling things as a dedicated marketing email, custom content, a webinar, lead generation, or some other type of marketing method. And businesses right now that are getting all of their ad revenue or all their revenue from newsletter ads are hurting and they're in a really bad position. If that's you, what you need to do is just find a better way to sell for your sponsors. Think about yourself as a marketing partner or an agency for the sponsor, not just a publisher. You got to put on your marketer hat, not just your creator or publisher hat. And you should offer other services to your advertisers that sell better than just newsletter ads. I'm talking things like webinars, sponsored social content, custom content advertorials. What that means is custom content just means content that you create for the advertiser. So it could be a blog post, it could be a dedicated email, a dedicated newsletter, a advertorial, a listicle, or like I said before, sponsored content on social media. You can also do lead generation, where you create a lead magnet and promote it for the brand, and then you share the leads that you get from that lead magnet with the brand. You can send dedicated marketing emails. You have to be careful of that because you can't send too many or you're going to get a problem with engagement. And you can do a lot more. You need to be creative and think about what inventory and audience you have and how can you utilize that to sell things for your sponsors. Because if you actually sell things, you can charge more. You can sell bigger packages with higher CPMs where you make more from each package. And you can do that because you sell more for your sponsors. When you do that, you get sponsors to pay you more. They renew with you more. They work with you longer, and you're both more successful. Okay. So those are the 5 or 6 things that I would do if you want to learn from my experience growing my newsletter to over 50,000 subscribers and helping my clients add over 10 million subscribers and over 100 million in sales from their newsletters. I hope that helps. If you're someone who's just starting here and wants to get your first 1,000 subscribers, I have a free guide on how to do so in the description below.